All right. Three,
All right,
two,
tweets are
one.
sent.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear us and see us. We'll be starting in just a second. I'm not well today, so if I sound down, that's why.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Oh, really not well. I'm drinking this. Do you have Lemsip over there?
What is it?
Lemsip. It's like powdered medicine that you drink in a hot cup of water.
Yeah, we have one called like Theraflu. That's basically it.
That's what I'm drinking right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's acetaminophen that's in there
Right.
that usually
Yeah.
makes it not taste great.
It's horrible.
Yeah, they try to make it like lemony.
Yeah, that's like doesn't help. I hate lemon as well, but thanks.
Yeah. Well, we'll try to
Right.
keep this short.
Yeah, I'm ready to go when you are.
All right, just let me bring up the notes. Okay, I'm now recording.
Me too.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Windows Central podcast, episode 309 for April 21st, 2023. Hey everyone, Deanna Rubino joined with Zach Bowden for another exciting episode of the Windows Central podcast. This week we got, well, of course, Windows 11 news, and there was quite a bit of it this week that Zach will walk us through, including some new features that are coming, including one that a lot of people have been asking for a very long time. Zach also has an exclusive report on the Surface Pro 11-inch that's reportedly coming, as well as the Surface Go 4 and news around that. Things we talked about previously on some earlier podcasts, but we'll go through the updates today. Microsoft AI chips are being built, which is kind of interesting. Microsoft versus Twitter. All right. Yes, of course. I couldn't go a week without mentioning Elon Musk on this podcast, so we'll go through that news and how it's affecting even Xbox players. I'll finally got my Galaxy Book 3 Pro review up, which I'll quickly go through, as well as I start to turn my attention to the Galaxy Book 3 Ultra, which I'll explain the difference between those two as well. And Google Bard is quote unquote worthless. That's not us saying it. That's Google employees. Ouch. So all that and more coming up. Before we get started, apologies if you're listening to this podcast and you're hearing like hissing in the background or white noise. No idea what's causing it. I'm on a very expensive XLR mic going through a mixer. There's obviously some kind of line noise somewhere. I'm going to have to reach behind my tower PC, which is, let's just say, not reachable, very reachable, and start messing with plugs. Hopefully next week I'll have a solution in place, but until then, apologies. You just got to hear a little bit of a hissing noise. But other than that, Zach, you're maybe, apparently, reportedly, battling COVID. Is that the case?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I woke up with the worst cough in the world this morning, but it's not. I've had COVID before, and that was a different kind of cough. This is a new cough, much more dry. So no idea what I've got, but I'm feeling really down. So if I sound down, that's the reason why. I just finished a lovely cup of Lemsip, which was disgusting, but that's supposed to help me not cough throughout the duration of this podcast. We'll see if that helps. But other than that, how are you?
Well, I'm not sick, so that's good at least.
Yeah,
Hey,
well,
we
there
both
you
got
are.
haircuts at least, so
Yes,
we're at
that's
least looking
true.
really sharp, Look at us all cleaned up and everything. But yeah, I guess let's just jump into it with the Windows 11 news. There are some new features that were coming out into the insider builds that are actually pretty exciting. So why don't you go through and tell us what those are?
Yeah, so let's start with which one should we start with? Let's start with build. Let's start with the Canary Channel build. So there was a couple of interesting additions in this build this week. More legacy UIs are getting updated with some Windows 11 interfaces, such as the Windows security sort of dialogue, which is really nice. That the old firewall dialogue that still pops up, where it's like, would you like to use this out like on a private or public network? That's finally getting updated, which is really cool. They're also adding some interesting taskbar options, such as the ability to disable the system tray date and time, and then as well as right-clicking the network icon to jump straight into network diagnostics, which is kind of nice as well. Being able to disable the system tray date and time is an interesting addition. I don't know if it was something you could do on previous versions of Windows. Maybe you could. It's been a long time since I used Windows 10 and Windows prior. But it's now coming to Windows 11, and a few people are asking, well, why would you want to do that? I need, I look down there all the time to see what time it is and stuff. And I think there's a couple of reasons for it. I think it's for smaller screen devices, which we'll actually talk about in a minute. Small tablets, 10 inches, like the Surface Go, for example. If you're pinning
That's a
lots
good
of
point.
apps, you very quickly run out of room, especially when your taskbar is centered. So, and if you're a user who doesn't need to see the time, then what? It's just extra space that's being used up,
It's
right?
true.
So turn it off, and now it's gone. And obviously, it's not being enabled by default. It's just an option for you to go in and turn it off if you don't want it. But it's nice to see that they're adding options at least, which is kind of cool. We're also updating the remote desktop UI as well with Windows 11 stuff, because that's the sort of current trend with Windows. Moving on to the dev channel. The dev channel build got a new recommended thing in the start menu. So now every time you install a new build, and I assume this will come to Canary as well, it's just showed up in dev first. The top most recommended item in the start menu will now be the changelog for the build you're running, which is actually, I think, really handy. So instead of going on the internet and looking up the changelog, you'll just see it as a sort of quick link and recommended. You click on it, it'll open Edge, take you straight to the changelog in question, and you'll be able to read what's new, which is really nice. They did add a new hover behavior to the search box and search highlight gleam, but they've taken it away. Apparently, I'm literally just reading this now. They've crossed it out and they've taken it away. Update: due to an issue discovered after releasing this build, we have disabled this feature for now and plan to bring it back in a future flight. So, for a very brief time, you could hover over the search icon again, and it worked as it used to. And now they've taken it away again. So, hooray for that! They also updated the Windows Spotlight icon, and that's pretty much it, I think, for the builds officially. Unofficially, there's some hidden stuff in these builds, starting with the smart snap assist stuff. This is something I talked about a few weeks back. I wrote that story, and nobody seemed to care at the time, and it seems people still don't care. But Microsoft is adding smart snap assist essentially to Windows 11, which what this will do is when you hover over the maximize icon on an app window or bring your window to the top of that snap bar, in addition to the sort of static layouts you normally get, Windows will start recommending additional apps that it thinks you might want to snap side by side. So instead of manually snapping each one, you can just jump into one of those smart snap assist layouts, and all of those apps will snap together in one go. So that's cool that they're working on that. It's now functioning in the latest Insider builds, but it's not done and it's not public yet, so Microsoft hasn't announced it. But it's on the way, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I think that's basically everything that's notable in these builds, unless there's something I missed, Dan.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. I like the removal of the clock and the date. Your point about smaller devices makes a ton of sense, actually.
Yeah.
Because on that kind of device, it's less about doing hardcore work and probably more about consuming. And the point about the icons too is also makes a point that you just don't have a ton of room on smaller devices when you go down there. And on Android, I forgot if you can do that on iOS, but I know on Android, a lot of them you can hide the clock.
Yeah.
If it's not officially there, I think it's under the developer options. A lot of Android OEMs now offer the opportunity to either just show the battery icon versus the percent. You're a madman, by the way, if you show the percent up in your
I agree with you.
Android.
Totally agree with you.
That is just like you really just. I talk about worrying about your battery. Why is it at 86%? I just had it on for 2 seconds. That's I don't know who do that, but yeah, being able to and again, because it's optional, right? That's all we care about is it's optional. Some people, even you may be on. We should add that to the notes too about my new display I'm using. Put a note in there. Maybe we'll talk about that right after this section. But even some people, it could be on a large display, you just want a minimalist setup, right? That's a whole thing too. People want a very clean and tidy setup. And, why do you necessarily need the time? I do look at the clock quite a bit. That's true. I'll probably leave it on. But a lot of people have smartwatches and everything like that, or a clock on the wall or something. Yeah. So as long as it's an option, I'm totally fine with it. I think it's a good decision. I think some people will make use of it. And you're right about the tablets. I think it's pretty nice. The snapping stuff, becoming way more important. I'm using it pretty heavily these days because, we'll talk about my monitor here in a second. But it's all good stuff.
I was going to say, on my ultra wide, I'm not exactly fighting for space on my taskbar, so I don't need to get rid of the date and time either. I will say I did forget a couple other hidden things that have shown up in the recent builds. Two classic taskbar features that people have been asking for that were sort of present in the Windows 7 days. The ability to ungroup icons and show app labels on the taskbar. That appears to be on the way back and is functioning in a hidden state in this week's preview build. So that's pretty cool as well. And this goes back to the conversation we've had many times about the taskbar on Windows 11. This stuff is showing up now because Microsoft chose to rebuild the taskbar from the ground up. So when they chose to do that, they took a look at the feature set of the old taskbar and said, what do we want to keep? What do we want to bring forward and what do we want to leave behind? And I'm guessing app labels and ungrouping icons was on the list to bring forward, but it just takes time. And, Windows 11 launched in 2021. They were never going to be able to complete it in time for that. So over this year and through into next year, we will see Microsoft add even more classic features back. Not everything. Like, I still don't think we're going to get the ability to move it to the top again and stuff like that. Or toolbars. I don't think toolbars are ever coming back. But yeah, ungrouping icons and showing icon labels, if that's something that you do, which if you do, you're crazy. But if you do that, that will be a thing that's coming to Windows 11 very, very soon. So that's pretty cool. Dan, did you ever use any of those old features on the taskbar? No, me neither.
I remember turning it on once just to see it. I thought it was kind of cool,
ugh.
But yeah, but then I have too many icons that just it does make sense in a way because we've talked about this before how Windows and Microsoft may have gone a little too hard on blue icons. And so I have a lot of blue icons. And yeah, sometimes I get them confused. I'm like, wait, no, where's the other blue icon that I need? So I guess for some people, and also, if your vision isn't great or something like that, older people might benefit from it. Kids may benefit from it, younger people. So there's some good use cases, I think, for it. But yeah, it's nice, again, to have that as an option returning to people. So all good stuff.
Real quick, before we move on, going back to the turning off the date and time thing, I do wonder if maybe they're adding that because I've heard, and I believe I mentioned this in the podcast before as well, I've heard Microsoft is planning to allow users to put widgets on the desktop. So currently they're in the widget panel. Being able to move them out to the desktop will be interesting. And if they do allow you to do that, then they could very easily add things like a date widget or a time widget, and you could customize your desktop very similarly.
And you can imagine it would match what they're doing on Android with Launcher. It would be like a similar design.
Exactly. So you wouldn't need it in the system tray as much if you have it on your desktop. Now, obviously, if you're running apps at full screen, it's different, but who knows? Maybe that's one of the reasons why they're giving you the option to turn it off, because they don't want you to have too many dates and times on display at once.
I just thought of something else we should talk about on the podcast, which we'll do after my monitor quickly. Let's talk about the Pixel Fold.
Oh, yes, we'll talk about that later for sure. I have some thoughts on that as well, actually. But until then, let's really quickly move on to our next story, the Surface Go 4 and Surface Pro 11-inch. So this is, I've hinted that the next Surface Go might be ARM for a while, but now I'm more confident that, yes, the next Surface Go will, in fact, be powered by an ARM processor. I'm hearing it's codenamed Tanta and will be powered by a Snapdragon 7C system on a chip. I don't know if it will be the current gen 7C or if there's a new one on the horizon that we don't know about, but it will be a 7C based processor of some kind. And that's pretty cool. I think a lot of people have been waiting for the Surface Go to go ARM. I thought that the Surface Go should have been an ARM device originally, but I believe the rumor back then was Intel convinced Microsoft to use an Intel chip, and maybe there was some sort of partnership there. But hopefully that partnership's over and Microsoft is now able to switch to ARM. Because I do think the Surface Go, of all the Surface products on the market, I think the Surface Go makes sense as an ARM device the most. It's the smallest one. It's the one where the workload is usually quite lightweight, which Windows and ARM is pretty good at. And it's the one that's in most need of improved battery life. You can only put so much battery in a Surface Go device. And with the Intel chips currently, they are quite hungry for power. And so switching to an ARM processor, you ideally get the same sort of performance, but better battery life. So in my opinion, that's a win. And that's kind of what we're expecting with Surface Go 4. I'm also hearing that there may be some minor design updates. They're not too sure what the specifics are about that just yet. And 5G, with Windows and ARM, the 7C, I believe it supports 5G. And so we'll see 5G on the Surface Go for the first time as well, which will be pretty exciting. Dan, I assume you're excited for this as well, because I know I am.
Yeah, so the benefit here is, compared to, like, say, the Qualcomm ARM processors compared to Intel Core,
right?
Especially the Core i3, Core i5. Yeah, they're getting better. The HCX Gen 3 is roughly equal to like 11th Gen Core i5s. Actually beats it in some cases too. It's actually pretty fast, but there's still that kind of gap. But we're talking about it wasn't even an Atom processor, right? Oh, it was the Pentium processor that they're using. That chip is not great. And
No.
so the benefit you're going to see with ARM, you mentioned battery life, of course, that should be one. I'm not saying it's going to be like a dramatic increase in battery life, but
Right.
maybe an extra 2 hours, maybe. I don't know.
Which is a lot
It,
because if the Go
yeah,
gets like 5 hours, maybe 6 on a good day, 8, 9, that's way better.
yeah, this could, be that make break for a lot of people, what you would consider like to be an all day kind of device. But the real benefit is going to be the multi-core performance. This is where ARM really has an advantage. I think, and you
Yeah.
can look this up because my keyboard's too loud. I think the 7C is 8 core. Um,
Let's
and
take
in
a
which
look.
case, and the Pentium, I think, is only dual core. I forgot what it is. But you're going to see like the ARM absolutely will blow away the performance in multi-core performance, which is really good for running obviously quite a few apps.
Yeah.
Single core performance should also be pretty similar too, actually. And in fact, the Qualcomm, I don't know, the 7C, I forgot how it compares. But yeah, you should see a pretty good increase in performance, regarding that ARM processor.
Yeah.
And yeah, it doesn't have to, like, not every version will come with 5G, right? That they can be configured and will be configured without 5G. I'm sure there probably will be a 5G version because
Hmm.
weirdly enough, Surface Goes, which we should point out is the most popular Surface in terms of sales for Microsoft, which, due to its pricing, I think is obvious. But like, they sell a lot of these to enterprise. And that's one
Yes.
reason why you see 4G versions. And it's kind of weird to think about, but a lot of companies kind of want that. So I think you're right. We probably will see a 5G model as well. It'll probably be exactly one SKU, right? It'll probably
Hmm.
be 8 GB, 5G, and that processor or something like that. Maybe it'll be 16 GB, who knows? But it'll probably be just one SKU where all the rest will be without that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the performance should be interesting. Hopefully, some design changes and updates to refresh it a little bit. The bezels, I don't know. Do you think they'll make the
Yeah, I don't
bezels a little
know.
bit thinner?
I don't know. Again,
Yeah.
because this is supposed to be the budget conscious Surface, right? So they don't need to push any boundaries, really. The Surface Go's current bezels are fine, I think, for the price you
Yeah.
pay. You got to remember as well, as we're about to talk about, there is an 11-inch Surface Pro in the cards as well, and that will have thinner bezels. So I think maybe that's how they'll differentiate them a bit. But yeah, I should also mention the Surface Go 4, as far as I'm aware, will also be available with an Intel processor as well. Similarly to how they do the Surface Pro currently with the Surface Pro 9. So if you're a business customer, for example, and you still need Intel, you will be able to configure a Surface Go with a low end Intel chip of some kind. I don't know what chip that would be. It will likely be an Intel N series processor of some kind, most likely. But yeah, that will be a thing. And regarding when it's supposed to be coming, it was supposed to be announced this spring, probably alongside the Surface Dock 3. But a lot of things got punted into later this year / next year, and the Surface Go 4 was sadly one of them. So now I'm expecting to see it at the end of this year, or later this year rather. And even then, that could still get pushed back. But that's the kind of timing for Surface Go 4 and stuff. We should quickly move on to the other device, the 11-inch Surface Pro, which I'm hearing is in the works. This device is codenamed Luxor, Luxor. And this one's quite interesting because, I don't know if anyone was really expecting Microsoft to make an 11-inch Surface Pro. This is a device that I'm told will ship alongside the usual 13-inch model. And the thinking there is it sort of matches what Apple is doing with the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro currently ships in a 12.9-inch model and an 11-inch model. And Apple sells those quite successfully, I think. And so Microsoft thinks, yeah, we can probably do that as well, right? And if Microsoft really is improving Windows for tablets for devices like the Surface Go, maybe having a flagship 11-inch tablet makes some sense. So they've been working on that internally, I'm told. Now, if you read my story, you'll notice I'm very specific about how I refer to this 11-inch Surface Pro. I call the Surface Go 4 the Surface Go 4 because I do believe that the ARM chip will be available with the next Surface Go. However, I'm less sure about when the 11-inch Surface Pro is going to show up. I didn't say Surface Pro 10 for a reason because I'm not sure if it will be ready in time for the next version. It could be a Surface Pro 11 thing, but it is something that they are working on. They've got prototypes internally. It will either be with the Surface Pro 10 or Surface Pro 11, but I'm leaning more towards it being a Surface Pro 11 thing, which will ship in the 2024-2025 timeframe with Windows 12. Because Windows 12 will have all these updates and stuff for smaller screen devices, and I think maybe they want to have a star device to showcase those improvements, and an 11-inch Surface Pro I think makes sense for that. So I don't know anything about specs because things are going to change between now and when it ships, but I would suspect that it will be Intel and ARM like the bigger one is. I don't see why it wouldn't be, but that's just speculation from me at this point. I don't know anything else about it other than it has an 11-inch display, and I believe the accessories across the 11-inch Surface Pro and the Surface Go will be shared, which does mean the Surface Go is probably going to have a slightly updated design with a new keyboard connection, because the Surface Go still uses the older Surface Pro connector, and that's been long gone on the main Surface Pro line. So maybe we'll finally get support for the Slim Pen on Surface Go, which I do think also means they'll have to make a cheaper Slim Pen, because the current Slim Pen is too expensive for a lot of schools and stuff. But that should be easy to do. Take the Slim Pen, take out the haptics. Most people don't need the haptics. You've got a cheaper Slim Pen straight away. So there we are. Good to see that Microsoft is still trying with Surface. You know, I think it's quite obvious that Surface has suffered with the layoffs and whatnot recently. A lot of things have been pushed back. I think the org's been told, hey, you need to start shipping stuff that makes us money, or at the very least breaks even. None of this experimental nonsense. We need to stop that for now. Hopefully we come back to that in the future. But for now, Microsoft is just focused on stuff that they think will make money. So that's Surface Go, Surface Pro, Surface Laptop, and hopefully Surface Laptop Studio. That's still something that is on the way. Again, that was also supposed to ship this spring, but now I'm hearing has been pushed back to the fall. So there we are. Dan, what are your thoughts on 11-inch Surface Pros and whatnot?
Kind of don't care.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, maybe it's just because I'm getting older. I'd rather have a 14-inch Surface Pro.
That's wild. I think the 13-inch Surface Pro is too, because for me the Surface Pro is too big to use as a tablet. It's good for as a 2-in-1, as like a laptop.
Yeah, I don't think of it as a tablet. That's why. I think of it as a really kind of portable laptop that just has a different design.
But I think
that's
Microsoft
really
wants
thin.
you to think of it as a tablet. I think they do want that, because this is why are they working on the tablet
What's Apple's
formats?
biggest tablet?
It also 13 inches. I'm not disagreeing. I think the iPad is too big as well. I do think that 11-inch screen size is perfect for tablets. I really do. That's why I love the Surface Go so much. It's 10.5 inches. Half an inch more would be perfect, I think. I do think, because it's just enough to still be productive, while also still being great as a handheld sort of consumption device. So that's why I think it's important. But yeah, it's not for everyone, for sure.
It's just, I mean, it's going to have some benefits in the sense that like the resolution will look better because the PPI will probably be higher.
Yes,
and I'm sure it'll look really nice. I'm sure when I hold it, I'll be really impressed with it, just like I am with iPads. Like every time I pick up an iPad, I'm blown away by the hardware. I just don't have a use for iPad in my life. I just can't get into them. But like, I don't know with this one. I think I would like the size of it because of its portability. Like, I think it'll be mixed on it, but it's going to be a tough choice between like the 11 and 12.9 and the pros and cons of those. I don't know. I kind of have to wait and see how I think about it. But I think an 11-inch display for me starts to, as a tablet, you're right, probably a better tablet experience. As a laptop, I think that distance is going to get tougher to use as like a full screen kind of thing, unless you're kind of really close to it all the time. So,
and I really do think this falls into their plans with the next version of Windows and stuff. We keep hearing that they are working on touch improvements for Windows V Next, things like an improved lock screen and login screen with touch, and improved File Explorer for touch, and improved desktop interface with touch. We've seen the Windows 12 interface leak a bunch of times now, and I keep hearing that this is all in the name of trying to make it more touch friendly. There seems to be a refocus on making Windows touch friendly, which is kind of nice to see. Obviously, Microsoft did this before Windows 8, and it was received quite poorly, but I think it's because they were too ham-fisted with it. Windows 10 was a big backtrack on that, and then we've slowly been creeping forward to making Windows more touch friendly again. So we'll see how it goes this time with Windows 12 and the 11-inch screen size. But I do think it's an interesting market. I think one of the reasons why they want to go after it as well is because I think Chrome OS and Android has this sort of 10 to 11-inch market kind of nailed, and you don't really find Windows devices in that range anymore. And I think Microsoft would like you to be able to find Windows in that range again. And so this is what they're doing. They're trying to sort of show OEMs that, yes, this screen size, Windows still works great here. Please make Windows devices that are 10 to 12 inches, please. Thank you.
Well, we'll see. I did like Lenovo years ago had a ThinkPad tablet that was smaller. I think it was 8 inches, and it was really kind of cool.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on. It was. No, I was just gonna say it was still a little too small to use as like a computer kind of thing, but with Windows 8 on it, it felt, kind of interesting.
Do you remember the HP Stream 7 with Windows 8.1?
Yeah.
That was an interesting device. That device was too small for Windows. It really was.
Yeah.
But that was cool. I thought it was cool that OEMs were, for a very brief time, experimenting with 7 to 8 inch tablets. Obviously the Surface Mini was supposed to be one of those devices, but that market very quickly died. The iPad Mini was the only one to survive that screen size. Even Android tablets you don't really see in that size anymore. The minimum size I see Android tablets are 10 inches. But yeah.
Interesting. Speaking of displays, let's go in the opposite direction. So I'll be having a review of this coming out. I don't know. I already did the photos for it. So hopefully not too far. Now if I can find the tab. Of course, oh, there it is. So Dell asked me, they sent over a list of monitors that just came out and asked if we want to review them. And so we're reviewing a couple. We just did the ultra wide. We talked about that recently, the 49-inch one. So that was on the last podcast, I believe. This one I'm using, and I had to because when I saw it, I was like, what, really? That you made that? So I'm using the Dell UltraSharp 43 4K USB-C hub monitor. Its number is U4323QE. Again,
great name.
U4323QE if you would like to look it up. And that 43, yeah, it means it's a 43-inch monitor. It is 43 inches, 16 by 9 at 4K. It is enormous. TVs, some people have TVs this size.
Yes.
And that's fine. You put a TV on the wall or something like that, and you sit a couple feet back. This is, I don't know, what, 1.5 feet, 2 feet from me? And it's just a wall of pixels.
You're going to get square eyes, Dan.
Yeah, right? It's awesome. It weighs 41 pounds, I think. So lifting is, when you put it on a desk, is an interesting challenge. But it's gorgeous. I mean, it's got thin bezels. It does have an anti-glare display, so it's great, for staring at it all day. And yeah, I got to look at the color accuracy. But it does a bunch of things. So first of all, it's a Type-C hub. So you can plug in. So say you're just one of those people, you have this monitor, a keyboard, and mouse, and you plug those all into the display, including RJ45 Ethernet. You can plug that, it has an Ethernet port. So you can plug all your stuff into the back of this display and then have a single Type-C cable coming out that you come in and just connect it to your laptop. And it delivers, I believe, 96 watt-hour power delivery to your laptop. So it's definitely going to recharge your laptop unless you have some gaming one and you're using the GPU. And then you'll get, also your laptop will now be on Ethernet, you'll have a keyboard, mouse, all that. But you can do much more. So at 43 inches, I believe this is roughly equal to, I think it's 4 24-inch full HD monitors. And I know people say it's crazy and all this kind of stuff and oh, it's too big. But we see a lot of people set up with quad screens on their desk, and people are okay with that. You're like, oh, that looks awesome. That's sick, This is just that. It's just in one monitor, right? It's just in one package. You just put it on your desk. But it can actually take 4 separate inputs into it, and it'll divide up into quads on the display. So you could have 4 PCs connected to this, or your Steam Deck. Actually, I should try the Steam Deck. That's really awesome. So you can connect a Steam Deck, an Xbox, your PC, and I don't know, something else, or your laptop. You can have all those connected because it has a KVM switch basically built into it. And you could just use one keyboard and mouse to control all of them, which is pretty crazy. I actually haven't tried that yet, so I'm going to have to experiment with it. But this is obviously not it's a consumer, I mean, it's more built for enterprise. Let's be clear here. Of course, consumers can buy it, but that's its target market for people who, data analysts, people who need to be looking at 4 things at once, basically. And Dell has their own management software, which creates zones. And it's pretty cool how it works. I'll explain it in the review and stuff. But and it's not terribly priced, to be honest. It's $1,045. I know it's not cheap, but that's not Dell makes monitors that are $5,000, right? So this is not extraordinarily expensive, but I mean it's been pretty awesome. I don't know if I can go back. I was using a 34-inch before this, which was already pretty big. It'd be interesting if I can go down small for this, but yeah, it's a crazy display, that's for sure. What do you think about
the PPI of your monitor, and I hate it?
It's still good. Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing, right? 4K. But you're okay with 4K TVs, so.
But I don't sit at a foot and a half away from them. That's the difference. Once you're far enough away, you don't see the pixels anymore. But because you are literally, it's in your front of your eyes, you
I
definitely
don't
can see
see
those
the
pixels.
pixels.
Oh come on, yes you can. 103 pixels
No, I'm
per
serious.
inch. Okay.
How much is it? What's the PPI?
103 PPI.
Yeah, that is pretty low. No,
Yeah.
I'm about it. It looks fine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. No, well, in that case, then that's totally cool. Yeah. For me, though, I would totally notice that, and it would make me really sad. But no, that is crazy. I've seen people using the LG 42-inch OLED. I don't know if you've seen that in the wild.
Yeah, the TV.
The
right.
TV.
Yeah.
But there's problems with using TVs as monitors. Is that they're
Yes.
not really very smart at like coming on automatically when you power on a device and turning off when you're going away and stuff. And also, burn-in on OLEDs is still a real thing, especially on the big TVs and stuff. So.
Yeah, it's a real good point. I always hear people say like, "Why not just use a TV? It's cheaper."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but TVs aren't meant to do this stuff. Like, for instance, this runs Dell Display Monitor. It's called. It's a piece of software that runs, and like it gives you access to like adjusting the contrast and brightness via the software. So you don't have to like reach behind the monitor and do all that nonsense. You can just quickly access it. Because on most desktops, you can't adjust the brightness via software like on a laptop. But this allows you to do that, as well as control the 4 different zones, right? So this has 4 different zones for 4 different inputs, as I mentioned. It has a KVM switch, so you can just use one keyboard and mouse, because it'd be dumb to have 4 keyboards and 4 mice set up for each device, right? Like a TV can't do that. This also has Ethernet built in. Most TVs don't have that. It has a ton of ports. Oh, I should also mention, this has the drop-down thing at the bottom. So you push it in like a button, and then it pops down, and it gives you a Type-C and a Type-A port right in the front. So then you can connect peripherals to it instead of going over to your PC. So you get quick access to that. Again, so TVs don't have anything like that. This is really purpose built for a PC. Can you use a TV like the LG for gaming and, as a regular monitor? Sure, you could, but you're right. There are software issues with it that people have had, and compatibility. The ports necessary aren't there, and this is only a 60 hertz monitor, right? But it is like $1,000, right? If they made this like say 8K to make Zach happy and made it 120 hertz, this thing would be over $5,000 easily, right? Now, maybe they will do that, but they would have to see if there's an actual demand for it. I'm saying, me personally using this every day, I'm totally fine with it. Yeah. Would I say no to 5K or 6K? Heck, of course. I mean, it'd be awesome to have that. But like, I'm using it. I think it looks great. It's pretty crazy being able to just put it this way. When I do video calls, if I do one-on-one and I make it full screen, their head is basically life size.
Right.
And like you can make it, and this thing goes down low. So it's adjustable for height, and it tilts, right? But it can sink very low, which is what you want, because you don't want to put this on the desk and then have it angled high, because then you're going to be looking up at the monitor. So I push it almost all the way down, and look, I have an adjustable desk. So I basically look right in the middle of the display. But yeah, it's kind of funny when you're doing a video call with just one person. You're basically looking at them eye to eye. It's pretty, it's a pretty wild experience. So I'll look for that review coming soon. It's mostly going to just be talking about all the rest of the features. And of course, the color calibration and how accurate it is. All right, what's our next thing here? Oh, you want to talk about the Microsoft AI chips? What that story was?
Yeah, let's briefly mention that. So Microsoft is building its own chips. Hooray! But sadly, they're not the kind of chips we want them to be building. Well, maybe kind of a little bit. So this is all to do with AI and Bing Chat and Chat GPT and all of this stuff. Currently, it's not cheap to run Chat GPT and other services of a similar kind. A report from a bunch of analysts came out earlier this week, which said it could cost anywhere up to $700,000 a day to run ChatGPT for all the millions of users who are running it. And that's because all the data it processes isn't cheap. And, these companies need to buy a bunch of GPUs in bulk to be able to power these servers to be able to process all of that data. Now, right now, most of the companies, including Microsoft and Azure AI services, are using NVIDIA GPUs. And they've ordered thousands upon thousands of them. And so Microsoft would like to rely less on NVIDIA for this sort of stuff. And so they've been developing their own AI chips internally since at least 2019, according to reports. The project is codenamed Athena, I believe. And it's basically designed to sort of make it so Microsoft doesn't rely as heavily on NVIDIA for AI processing and whatnot. So they can now deploy their own chips to their own Azure servers and be able to process AI data without having them all be NVIDIA based. So that's basically the story. We don't really know much else about the chips, just that Microsoft is building them and has been building them for quite some time, and they do plan to sort of roll them out to their own Azure service as soon as next year. But it's cool that Microsoft is working on its own chips, because obviously that could eventually extend into making actual processors for consumer devices like Surfaces. You know, there was a rumor maybe a year ago or so where Microsoft did want to at some point build its own chip for Surface PCs, but I don't think they're anywhere near being able to do that yet. It's not something that can just come out of the gate and ship, because it's not as easy as people think it is. But yeah, this will be a great testbed for them. If they can ship a chip that is reliable, functional, powerful, and does what it's intended to do in Azure, then maybe that team can move on to making chips for other kinds of things as well. And along that same story, we should also probably mention that, you know, I think the MVP Summit happened this week, and there was a session about Surface, and in that session they basically confirmed that all future Surfaces will ship with an NPU of some kind. And I think that's regardless of if it's Intel, AMD, or ARM. I think that Microsoft is working on a dedicated NPU for Surface PCs that will hand off all AI functionality, which makes total sense. You know, AI is this thing now, right? It's up and coming. And so, yeah, it's going to be a thing for future Surfaces and whatnot. So there we are. That's the story, I think. Not much more to add about that.
Nice. Yeah, it makes sense too, especially with the supply constraints and what happened. You know, you don't want to rely on one vendor for chips and all that. Yeah. Everybody's moving to try to, you know, do it on their own. Plus, with more control over the hardware, yeah, you know, things are going to be, you know, more stable for them. They can optimize things better. So there's a lot of good stuff going on there, but kind of interesting, I guess. All right, let's do a quick ad read. Yes, we got another one this week. It'll be Magic Minds. Basically, I've talked about this before. Oh, I still have mine here, actually. I forgot to drink it before the podcast. I should. But Magic Mind, little tiny bottles like this. It's basically almost like a tea that's in there. It's all natural nootropics. Basically, if you drink coffee in the morning, which I do, actually, if you drink, a lot of people drink coffee, obviously, right? But the problem with coffee is after you're at your third one, you may start to feel gross. Long term, you're staining your teeth. Longer term, if you're not putting in an deacidifier, is that a word? I put in a powder into mine that basically takes out the acid of coffee, but it could damage your throat, and ulcers, and all that kind of stuff. So coffee is great in moderation, but the problem is everybody, especially in America, is doesn't get enough sleep. Then they rely on the coffees and all this kind of stuff. So this is basically to be a replacement for that. In fact, what I do with my single cup of coffee now, I actually mix it half decaf and half regular, just so I can cut down on the caffeine, so I'm not using it too much. Because the problem with caffeine is you crash on it. And there's a lot written about this, about the neurology of why this happens. It has to do with adenosine, I believe, in the brain. They get blocked, and then when they free up, your system crashes, and that's why all of a sudden you go from feeling really good to like terrible. And that's the problem with caffeine. And you can do that. You can keep boosting it with another cup, but eventually your system gets really wrecked from it. It also can bump up your cortisol levels. So they made Magic Mind. And it's this cool little drink. You can just do it as a shot, and it's very portable. Throw it in your pocket. Or you can just mix it into water and drink it that way. I've been using it for a while. It's good natural energy. You know, the ingredients I've gone over before, it's got matcha in it, which is very popular. It's basically a form of green tea, has L-theanine in it, which helps reduce stress. A lot of people take caffeine with L-theanine because the L-theanine cancels out the anxiety that coffee, and specifically caffeine, can cause in some people. So if you mix those, it gives you a more mellow, you're still energetic, but you don't feel like crazy, jittery, and spiky. I wish I had that issue. I definitely don't. Bacopa monare is another nootropic, helps improve your attention span and your ability to process and learn new information. Ashwagandha, an adaptogen that reduces stress and anxiety. Rhodiola rosea, a nootropic and adaptogen that reduces fatigue and anxiety, increases your body resistance to stress, improves physical and mental endurance, and enhances mental clarity. I actually take Rhodiola rosea in the morning, and then I take it right before I go to gym as well, because it does help as it says, physical and mental endurance. What's cool about rhodiola rosea is it's not a stimulant, it's an adaptogen. So it does make you feel better, it gives you more endurance, but you're not going to have any of those side effects from taking too many stims. Lion's mane mushrooms is also in here, as well as cordyceps mushrooms. They're both adaptogens that help reduce inflammation. Both nootropics, strengthens your immune system, and supports higher energy levels and physical endurance by ramping up the production of ADP in your mitochondria. You always want to keep those mitochondria happy. Anyway, it's really good stuff. I like it a lot. You can basically go and buy a sample pack and just try it once if you want, and you'll get 20% off of the order. You can also go and get 56% off your subscription for the next 10 days. So you want to go to www.magicmind.co, that's com.co/WCP. That is magicmind.co/WCP. And or you can enter in the code WCP for Windows Central Podcast when you're checking out to get those discounts. Again, you can get 20% off your first one-time purchase, or 56% off code that lasts 10 days, and that will give you a big discount on the subscription. The subscription's the best, what I like to do, because obviously it just shows up at your doorstep. You don't have to worry about reordering it and waiting. You just get it. You can cancel anytime, of course. Really cool stuff. But it's all natural. If you're looking for energy, this is definitely the better way to go than instead of slamming down cups of coffee. And the pricing of it, actually, if you're drinking at Starbucks every day, trust me, the pricing works out better in favor of this stuff than going to Starbucks. So there you go, Magic Mind. Go check it out. And thank you for sponsoring the podcast. Let's go on to Microsoft and Xbox cut ties with Twitter. So this story was kind of interesting. Basically what happens, and let's see, I got to bring up the actual details here. But Microsoft has an advertising kind of platform thing that companies can use. And what it does is allows them to, if you're a company, you can go on there and manage your social networks. So you can do LinkedIn, you can do Instagram, you can do, at one time, Twitter. So you can do all that, manage it from one place. It gives simple access for managing this stuff. And then you can respond to customers directly and all that. So it's a pretty big service that Microsoft offers. And it's called Digital Marketing Center. It's a social media management tool. And so the big issue here is they're discontinuing and dropping support for Twitter. We use stuff like this as well. Like we use a thing called Buffer. Buffer allows us to send out a tweet, go to LinkedIn, go to Facebook, like all at once. And you can customize each message and for the platforms, and you can schedule stuff later on and you see a calendar. So this stuff is pretty normal to use. Microsoft, though, is much bigger and goes with a lot of small to medium businesses tend to use it. So why is Microsoft dropping Twitter? Well, up until now, Twitter's API, that is the ability to access its information and use tools with it, was free and was basically open. That's how you got third-party apps like on Android and on iOS, and even on Windows, right? And we had them on Windows Phone, how you can have third-party clients using Twitter because they would use this API, then they could do it, get access to the tweets, and then they would do things like customize the UI and add new features that they could do. And that's what made those clients great. Well, Twitter decided that they want to start charging for that. And the starting price is $42,000 a month, which, as you can imagine, a lot of companies can't afford to pay, or even if they could afford it, maybe don't see enough value in paying that. Microsoft appears to be one of those, and presumably Microsoft would actually be paying more than $42,000 a month for that. And so on April 25th, they're dropping support for it in their tools. And that's that story. So it just means that advertisers and companies that were using this digital management center won't have access to Twitter. I presume other companies that kind of make similar software may be doing the same as well. But this is part of a larger disengagement by companies with Twitter. And right after, this is of course classic Elon, right after the news broke out, like he was responding, someone wrote, Brian Krasenstein, I'm curious if you have a long-term plan here to Elon. I understand charging for the API, but I think that's one thing that has been great about Twitter in the past is the ability to function across the internet. In many cases, the move is killing traffic to Twitter itself. Yeah, even embedding tweets like could become a thing, where companies will be charged, like media outlets will be charged to embed a tweet,
No one's
right?
gonna
So
do
like this, yeah, no one's going to do that. And then Elon goes, I'm open to ideas, but ripping off the Twitter database, demonetizing it, removing ads, and then selling our data to others isn't a winning solution. And part of this was in regards to his first response to the news was they trained illegally using Twitter data, lawsuit time. And so it's like he doesn't even explain like it. This is about Microsoft dropping Twitter access for the digital media thing. He seems to be switching topics and now talking about Bing Chat and Bing Search, and specifically more GPT-4 being trained on data that's open on the internet and was using the Twitter API, which up until recently was free and everybody can access it. And he says they're training illegally using that data. So first of all, it's off topic. It has nothing to do with the fact what Microsoft is doing, just refute. They don't want to pay the fees. So it has nothing to do with that. He says lawsuit time. I'm going to start a timer. I meant to do this. Remind me in 15 days or 30 days and 60 days and 90 days when he files this lawsuit, because I think it's bullshit. I don't think he's going to file a lawsuit. If you don't think a company like Microsoft and OpenAI cross their I's, dotted their T's, I think I reversed that. If they're doing their homework on the legalities of the data they are collecting, and lots of research companies use Twitter data to access it and analyze it, I don't think they're going to be sued by Twitter. And go ahead. Microsoft has a $2.15 trillion market cap. They're sitting on a reserve of $113 billion of cash, some of which they're going to probably use to buy Activision Blizzard at $69 billion, which still blows my mind. Yeah, okay. Go challenge him in court and let's see what happens. Don't forget, this is the same guy that said he was going to buy Twitter for $44 billion, then tried to back out of it because he was saying, there's all the what's the percentage of bots? It's way higher. By the way, did Elon ever come out and tell us what percentage of bots were on Twitter? I don't remember him ever telling us that data. Interesting. But he was so sure. And then I remember all of the Musk fanboys were like, oh, this is it. They're going to go to court. And then Twitter's, all the info that Twitter's been hiding is going to come out. And then they're going to get sued for fraud. And that's going to be the end of that story. And everybody's like, no, what's going to happen is he's going to be forced to buy the company because he made an agreement with them. And now he's trying to back out. And sure enough, that is exactly what was going to happen. So before it actually went to court, because he knew he was going to lose, he had to buy the company for $44 billion, which he now has personally reevaluated the company and says it's worth about, I believe, $20 or $22 billion. So it's already lost half its value. And now the news has come out with Tesla stock is down. SpaceX, he's apparently looking to try to sell it off. And he's not liquid anymore because he's so leveraged heavily against his own Tesla stock and the bank loans that he doesn't have any cash really on hand anymore. So he's still worth billions, but he would have to sell a large amount of say Tesla stock or SpaceX. But in doing so, not only would he get, he gets the money, he loses control of the company. You have to have a controlling amount of shares. And after it drops below a certain point, he loses control of the company because he doesn't have as much in the shares. So he doesn't really want to sell all his money. So this is when people talk about he's worth billions of dollars. It's in paper. It's all in stock. And it's only as valuable as what those companies are worth. And unfortunately, all those companies have basically deteriorated in their market share. And that's continuing with Tesla, which is having a pretty rough quarter itself. And full disclosure, I own a Tesla. I love it. It's a great car. And I bought Tesla stock before. So it's not like I really like the company, but Musk is not doing a great job here. So I very much doubt he's going to file a lawsuit against Microsoft. I don't think this was illegal what they were doing. And I think this is just nonsense. And again, a distraction since he wasn't actually addressing what the story is about, that Microsoft doesn't want to pay for the API access, as well as other companies are starting to back out. What this also means, though, getting into Xbox is pretty simple, that On Xbox, when you go to record a clip, you are able to share it directly to Twitter. I've used it before. It's really cool. It just uploads the video clip directly to Twitter. You can write a little thing, hey, check this out, boop, and it goes up. Well, that's gone because that's not free anymore. You can't just link in to Twitter. And so Xbox got rid of that feature. So the more they charge for this stuff, like a lot of companies, like, even Twitter Blue, right? Like, I'm not against paying for Twitter every month as a service. We do it for other things like Spotify and all this other stuff, right? But I have to see value in it. And right now, I don't really see the value in it. It's not a true verification check mark. It's a verification you paid by a credit card. So the identity thing is still not there. You could post longer tweets. Hey, for some, that's cool. You know what I do if I want to post a longer tweet? I just post on the website that I work for. And I write a whole article, and then I put the link there. So I don't really see the value in that because I have a website. I can embed longer videos. Okay, neat. I don't really do that, so not a benefit there. I can edit tweets. Yeah, okay, that's cool, I guess. And I used to pay for Twitter Blue when it was $4.99. I didn't mind paying for it back then, and you get access to beta features. Now at $8 a month, I'm like, but I just don't see the value there, so I'm not going to pay for it. I don't think a lot of people. In fact, I just shared a thing. It was kind of funny. So, in the rest of the news, as Musk said he was going to pull all the legacy check marks, which he did on 420. So companies like Reuters and everybody else don't have an official check mark. Even the Pope doesn't have a check mark. Oprah doesn't have a check mark. So, and you're already starting to see spoofing and stuff of in creating fake accounts. Because what happens is, yeah, sure, the FBI, probably harder to fake, but people are creating like fake FBI offices, and they're converting old accounts to it, so they have already a lot of followers, and you now don't know, wait, did that account exist like 10 minutes ago? You don't know anymore, so you don't know if it's a real account. And the smaller you go on these in the offices, like to the state and local level, like your local town and its political offices, like they're not getting the great checks because they're so down on the totem pole. And there's so many of these little tiny governmental organizations. So there's going to be a lot of this stuff going on. But in terms of the reaction, so Travis Brown, he's a researcher, been doing Twitter stuff for many years. He just put out a tweet update for the day after regarding the removal of the checks. Just before the purge yesterday, 19,469 of the 407,000 legacy verified accounts I had identified in early April had Twitter Blue. Today, that number for the same account is 19,497 for a net increase of 28 accounts. So as of yesterday, only 28 people who were previously legacy verified have bought into Twitter Blue, which brings in a revenue of $245 a month for Elon Musk, which I'm not sure it helps offset his $44 billion, most of which is loaned against banks. This is just a disaster. Microsoft doesn't really care about, paying Twitter this. Again, if a company sees value in it, sure, but you're starting to see companies pull back. A lot of journalists, everybody's kind of pulling out of Twitter. I'll still post there, but I mostly just post story links and interesting stuff. I don't use it the way I used to use it, though. Zach, what are your thoughts on all this?
I just think it's such a shame that the Twitter has fallen down this hole. Because I love Twitter. I've always loved Twitter. That's where I find most of the community around Windows and Surface fandom and whatnot. This is where it all goes on for me. And I've tried to migrate to other social networks, and it's just not the same. It's just not the same. And so I'm so worried Elon's going to ruin this for everybody, and in a few years' time, Twitter just won't be a thing anymore. And if that happens, I'll be really sad. There's so many. It's so frustrating as well because the whole verification system could have been improved. There were so many ways to improve it, and we've talked about this before. Through like government verification, having different verification sort of levels for different kinds of people. All of that, I think, was a great idea. But no, he had to do this. For some reason, he was super salty about who Twitter chose to verify before. So it's like, nobody can have it. And then yesterday, he literally tweets, oh, by the way, I'm paying for a few celebrities to have their own verification. So he's doing the same thing Twitter used to do. He's choosing people he thinks should be verified. It's just so it's terrible. Like, you may be
was,
a billionaire, but you're not smart. Let's be fair. You're really not.
Yeah, he does have this mystique about being a super genius.
No.
People, like, I just think they want that to exist. And listen, he's smart on some stuff, obviously. He's very good at business and taking risks.
He's not smart at Twitter, though.
Yeah, when it comes to the social stuff, like, he's really just way off the charts here. So yeah, he did buy LeBron James. He wasn't going to pay for a check, and Stephen King, the famous author, also said he was not going to pay for the check, and so Elon Musk gifted them both.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Checks. And even Stephen King was like, I don't want this, and he doesn't have a choice. He doesn't have the choice anymore.
It's so embarrassing. For everyone.
Yeah, so like now, because I saw it yesterday. I saw Stephen King interacting with him. I'm like, oh, Stephen King, really? You bought Twitter Blue after? Because he made a big deal. He's like, I don't want to pay $8 for this, And it's not because he can't afford it. He just thought, like, I already am verified. And then I saw him verify. I was like, oh, you're paying. And then I found out, oh, okay, so Elon Musk bought it for you without your inputs, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, you and I are both on the same page of this, which is, the old verification system was stupid. The solution, though, was just to open up ID verification to everyone who wanted it, even if it was a one-time fee. They could have been like $25. Yeah. You can get verified on Twitter. And I've talked about this before. There's AI and ML, machine learning services from companies that all they do is this. And I've used it before when buying eSIMs. You have to take a photo of your license, front and back, or your passport, and then you upload it, and then the server looks at it, and it scans it, and then it verifies. You go, that's a real ID, and then you get verified. Because a lot of countries, you can't buy an eSIM because of it's used as burner phones, right, or drug deals or terrorism and all that kind of stuff. So they track SIMs to make sure that they're tied to real people. And so to do that, you have to do ID verification. So it's a fully automated system. There's no humans involved. No one's looking at the image, which gets destroyed after it is verified. So he could have done that. And yeah, the software and services cost something, which you would then pass on. But it can't be that expensive, because when I buy an eSIM, they don't charge you $25 to verify your ID. Right. It's just, I don't know what it costs. Maybe it has to be cents, because when I buy the eSIM, it's not like an extra fee that gets added on, like a service fee. So he could have done all that. He could have even made it a recurring thing. Hey, $10 a year will keep your verified ID kind of thing. And that would have at least given people the blue check, which is what people wanted, and would have been verified and tied to their name. Now it just means nothing. It means that, like, you had a credit card, but you're not who you are, right? It's not tied to your actual name, which is really dumb. It's a separate thing. It's a Twitter subscription, but it's not verification.
Yeah, and
they're using verification in this loose sense that, like, it's verifying you're human.
Yeah.
Which,
right.
Okay, but that's not great.
But the other thing as well, like, what it does now is, it's funny. People fall into two camps. It's like people who are like, oh yeah, that guy subscribes to Twitter Blue, which means he wants to take advantage of some of the additional features. I was a Twitter Blue subscriber before Elon took over and all that stuff. I liked it for the edit tweet stuff and all the other stuff. And the fact that they added the verification badge to it, it's almost a stain now on the subscription. Like, I am Twitter Blue subscribed. I have been since when it was first announced, before Elon came in to take charge, and they upped the price, and I just left it. It's been a thing for a while, and
well, there's the rumor, supposedly a feature is coming that's going to allow you to hide your checkmark.
Hide the checkmark, which I think people will, because people are being shamed on it. There's somebody who I follow, I won't name them, who has basically had to lock her account. She was subscribed to Twitter Blue because she actually like, digs into these services and stuff, and she like finds features and
Mansion.
Stuff.
Yeah,
and she's locked her account because people were making fun of her for being subscribed to Twitter Blue, and I think that's just so unfair. I can handle it. I'm not. People can make fun of me. I don't care. It's fine. But lots of people don't, jive with that. People get upset. Online bullying is a real thing, and it's not fair that the people who want to just have Twitter for the additional features are now getting dunked on, for subscribing. And I feel like a lot of people would turn that check mark off, so people didn't know that they were subscribed to Twitter Blue. I don't care, frankly. I'm not bothered, but
I'm not into, like, I've teased a little bit about it, but I'm not into the shaming people who buy it. You know,
I don't know. I'm into shaming people who are clearly Elon fanboys and subscribe to help him out.
Those
That's
are
what
the
I'm
worst. Because like when you go into those threads, everybody that comes in and defends him,
I know,
and it's
all
just
blue,
like they have that check mark, and you're like, oh my God, you're a man, and you're like being this much of a sycophant to someone who doesn't care about you. Like this is how you spend your time. You know, you're talking about, but earlier you're talking about Jan Manchun Wong. She's really good. So she's really known for finding all these hidden features in Twitter of things that they were working on, posting up screenshots of stuff like that. And I think she was one that talked about how they're coming out with the feature to disable the blue check mark. But yeah, you're right. So she tweeted yesterday, and I follow her, so I can continue following her. But going private now because I'm not feeling safe on Twitter. I also unsubscribed to Twitter Blue. Please just don't launch another brigade on me, please. I haven't been feeling very well lately, and I'm going through some other stuff. And then she temporarily changed my profile picture to get rid of the blue check mark. And she posted a screenshot that she canceled it, you know, and just like, yeah.
Because some people,
yeah, because some people who had the check, because you can tell, right? You know, I use their apps and plugins that switch the icon. It would tell you the difference between Twitter Blue and being legacy verified. So some people who are legacy verified really had Twitter Blue below it. And then once they lost their official check mark, you can see their Twitter Blue subscribers. And then you're like, and some of them were coming out and be like, sorry. Which they shouldn't necessarily have to apologize.
It's
but
you're
right. I mean, I mean, again, if someone finds value in it, by all means, you know, I know some creators find value in it and that's why they pay. That's fine. I think most of us, though, are just like, don't want to pay to support what's going on, you know, because it's just, I haven't had a single new feature to Twitter. Nothing has made it better since he took it over. I can't name one thing. It's just gotten worse in the sense that all we talk about now, and we're doing right now, is him and Twitter. like instead of fading into the background, it's like if Steve Jobs, when he was alive, like every time you turned on your iPad, Steve Jobs would appear, right? Like talking about how much better the iPad is than about the competition. You'd be like, can we not make this about you? I would like to use the product. But he's making this all about himself. And it's weird. Like he's literally with the For You recommendations, like his tweets are forced onto you unless you mute or block him. He purposely had them change the algorithm so his tweets always show up in everyone's For You. Like, how much of an egomaniac do you have to be? Anyway, so I don't want to go off too much on a tangent, but it'll be interesting to see. Will there be a lawsuit? Highly doubt it, but we'll see. Does Microsoft completely pull out of Twitter? You know, like some companies are. I don't know. I think you're just going to start to see companies start to pull back. The advertising, he's lost half of the advertising of the top like 100 companies or something like that. It doesn't seem to be coming back. Like, you know, there's going to be a financial end to this where he owes the banks billions of dollars. He's going to make payments on them. And I don't think he's going to be making up the revenue here. And the idea of charging, and to get a gold check mark for a company, that company gets charged $1,000 a month. Which it's so much. Oh, and then if you want to link your employee to that, and you can have like a little badge, is an extra $50 a month per employee. Like that's absurd. A company like Future, we have like something like 60 websites. If we want to do that, it would be $60,000 a month at least. It could go higher than that. And if we wanted to add people onto that, like, 60, what's 60 times 60,000 times 12? I'm so bad at math. That is $720,000. Like that's a lot of money for a gold check mark. So I don't know where this goes. It's going to be interesting.
Microsoft is still gold verified, and Satya Nadella is the only Microsoft employee on the platform who is now affiliated with Microsoft. His blue badge says this account is verified because it's an affiliate of Microsoft on Twitter. He's the only employee I found who has this. Panos Panay doesn't have it. Chris Capicella, Scott Hanselman, none of the others have it except Satya Nadella. So
why does it look like a dirty logo? Oh, because it's flowers. Okay.
Yeah, it's Microsoft's profile picture is a bunch of flowers right now. But they seem to have it, so that they're paying for it for at least one employee. We'll see if they extend that to others. But I think a company like Microsoft kind of has to do it because a lot of people don't really know about the politics of Twitter and still view the verification badge as something important. So, yeah,
it's a shame. As far as alternatives, yeah, Mastodon, it's cool, but you're right. The Federation thing is just
Yeah.
it's more like talk about IRC back in the days for chatting. It was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Then AIM came around, AOL
Yeah.
Instant
Yeah. Yeah.
Messenger, and everybody went to that. It was like way easier and cooler. So and now there's Blue Skies, I believe, which is Jack Dorsey, the
Right.
former
I think
founder of
that's
Twitter.
also decentralized, isn't it?
Decentralized,
Ugh,
yeah.
lame.
But I think it's supposed to be a little bit better than
Maybe.
Mastodon. It's in early beta testing, I believe now, like a closed beta. Some people are getting in on it. Verge has an article about it, and actually, the Verge's article is pretty positive about it. So I think that may be the next best thing that may be coming out as an alternative to this. And ironically, it's coming from the guy who created Twitter, who now, says he says the way Twitter ran and was created was wrong, and that he's trying to fix that now by creating this new sort of decentralized network. But we'll see where it goes. I think that
Oh,
one has the most possibility to become the next thing instead of
yeah.
Mastodon.
I will say, Gus mentions a good point. Wasn't Windows Central gold verified? We were for a
Yes.
small amount of time. I don't know how we got it, and I don't know why it's gone now, but we were for a very brief period on Twitter verified
Yeah.
as a gold thing. And I don't know who gave that to us or why we got it.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's gone
Anyway,
now.
it'll be a fun story to follow. Drama, drama, drama.
Yeah.
Quickly, Galaxy Book 3 Pro. Samsung in their titles. It's Samsung Galaxy Book 3 with the 3 with no space between the K and the 3.
Which I hate. But they do that with the fold as well. It's the Z fold and then the number 4 next to the D. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I should have spaced it out, but yeah, the Book 3 Pro. So I've been covering Samsung laptops for years. I actually bought one. I think it was in 2015 because it was so cool. They've always made like super light laptops and experiment with different materials. And uh, last year I reviewed the Book 2 Pro 360, basically the same thing, but it had a hinge, obviously. And I liked it, but it was 16 by 9 inch, and the display was full HD. Now they're using Super AMOLED, so it was a very good full HD, but it's still full HD. And they helped with the battery life, but it was still a complaint as well as the 16 by 9. So this year they switched it up, thankfully. Now it's 16 by 10, and it's a 3K Super AMOLED display at 120 hertz refresh rate too, variable refresh, which is let's just say it's an outstanding display. It's non-touch, so keep that in mind. But it's arguably they do make the 360 16-inch version, which is obviously touch. But it's AMOLED 2X, what they're calling it. Goes up to 400 nits, which doesn't seem very bright. But I'm here to tell you, Super AMOLED at 400 nits is actually very bright, just the way the contrasting works. 120 hertz. And then I did the color calibration to look at it, the accuracy. It's 100% sRGB, 97% Adobe RGB, and the rare 100% DCI-P3. It is a very, very color accurate screen. It is just immense looking. It is just so sharp and clear and has super thin borders. The other thing is they jammed in here a Core i7 processor, and I thought when I heard this, they were going to put in like a U series processor. That's the 15-watt one. U typically means Ultrabook, and you put in the really thinner devices. But then again, they're calling this the Pro, and Pros tend to get more performance. So they actually put in the P processor, which can pull up at 28 watts. So it's 12 cores, 16 threads, 28-watt power draw, and it peaks at 5 gigahertz. It's a powerful machine. I did the benchmarks on this site. So I basically said it was faster than, the HP Pavilion Plus from 2022, which is one of my favorite laptops. It's about $1,000, but it had an AMOLED display, but it was only full HD, but it was still AMOLED at that price. It was great. But it shipped with the 45-watt i7 12700H processor. So that's the big boy, right? This thing beats that pretty handedly too in performance. So the P series now beats the H series from last generation, which is pretty great. This is a 13th gen chip, I should mention. But yeah, I don't really have a lot of complaints about this laptop. It's got quad speakers, 2 tweeters, and 2 subwoofers by AKG. They're tuned very well, has Dolby Atmos for spatial. And even though they're not top firing speakers, they kind of shoot out from the side at an angle. It's very good audio, especially if you're listening to something centered, voices. It sounds very good. They don't use Windows Hello IR because I think the display is too thin to actually put in that sensor. It does have a full HD web camera, though, at 2.1 megapixels. It's pretty good. It has a lot of cool features. It can do eye correction. It can blur your background and smooth your skin and all that kind of stuff. They do have a fingerprint reader built into the power button, though, which is really good for quick logins. It has a ginormous touchpad. It's not haptic. That's the one recommendation I said. They should definitely make it a haptic trackpad. But other than that, it's an outstanding touchpad. It's very smooth, large click, and it's just, like I said, it's absolutely huge. The keyboard is great too. It's not a lot of travel, but it's a good keyboard. Like, I got used to it. I was typing very quickly on it. Surprisingly, the battery life is pretty solid too. Not outstanding, but it's better than I kind of thought it would be. So I was getting between 6 and 7 hours of like legit day-to-day use. And then when we did the battery rundown test, which simulates actual usage, it just came just under 7 hours. So pretty accurate there. And it ranked pretty high, compared to it beat the Surface Laptop Go 2 and the ThinkPad X1 Extreme Gen 3, the Dell Inspiron, Dell XPS 17. So it's good battery life. Could be better, of course, but it does have fast charge on it, which is really nice. So you can really top it off. What's neat about this laptop, though, it's very thin, obviously, and it only weighs 2.4 pounds, which is, as you can imagine, pretty light. That's 1.17 kilograms for those of you who aren't American. But I like this this laptop way better than I thought it would. And when I would show it to friends, they were kind of blown away by the quality of it. Also, the ports, I should mention, are really good. You just expect a super thin laptop. Okay, they're going to cut back on the ports. Not here. Has a micro SD slot. Very rare to find that on a 14-inch laptop. It has a Type A port, full one, built right in. They still have the headphone jack, so no complaints there. Then you get 2 Type-C Thunderbolt 4s, awesome. And then, surprisingly, a full HDMI port, which I always like full HDMI. It's really great for connecting up to monitors. So overall, the port selection is pretty solid considering how thin it is. And it's just really nice. Now, I use it with the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, which Samsung also sent over. I've said before, that is easily the best Android phone on the market. It's $1,200 though, super expensive. So if you can afford it, it is. But it works super well. So they do have that one Samsung feature where your Samsung phone shows up under your Wi-Fi as just a Wi-Fi hotspot. It's just there, and you can just click it, and when you click it to connect, it'll turn it on your phone. I know you could do this already, like as a hotspot. You turn on your phone and then you wait a second and it shows up. But this is like you can leave your phone in your pocket kind of thing. Like it makes it a more simpler way to connect. So they don't have a 5G version of this laptop, but this helps take that pain out. So that's really cool. Plus, it has all the same software that's on the Galaxy phones, which there's a lot of, so you can share your notes and sync everything between. I actually like their software. I think it's really good. So starting price is around $1,400. You can go to, that's 512 gigs of storage. You can get up to 1 terabyte. You can upgrade it yourself, of course, too. The SSD, of course, is incredibly fast, being Samsung. You can go, they do have these at Best Buy. So if you're in the United States, you can go check them out yourself. I recommend that because you can buy it, try it, bring it back if you don't like it. On the other hand, if you go through Samsung, their website, you can do some pretty solid trade-ins there, and it'll give you some pretty big discounts. So I would recommend the beige version if you don't like fingerprints. So it's more of a whitish silver. They sent me the ones that's basically a dark blue, and it looks great, but it's going to pick up fingerprints. So if you hate those, get the lighter version. But I don't know. What do you think about that laptop, Zach? Is that something you think?
I like it. I checked it out in a Curry's, which is like Best Buy equivalent for the UK.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, I thought it was nice. They had the 14 there, and they had the 16 as well. They had the Ultra.
Yeah.
And that thing's a monster. That thing is massive.
Yeah.
It's got a number pad on it and everything. But the screens on them are amazing. They are like the perfect screens for me. They have super high resolution, more high res than you would need for a screen size that big. But Windows looks great on them. And so, yeah, they got it right. The trackpads are massive as well. I do appreciate a big trackpad on a Windows laptop, and and they certainly added the biggest they possibly could for a laptop.
Yeah, I mean, especially on the 16, it's comical how big it is.
Yeah.
So you brought up the Ultra. So the Ultra is a 16-inch version.
Right.
It does have a full number pad on it for those of you who like that. So that's pretty cool. It's basically the same. Outside the processor is now an H series. So it's going to be 45 watts. So it's going to be even more powerful. And then it has up to, I believe, a 3050 GPU in it. I gotta check that, but it has
the laptop. It's supposed to compete with the MacBook Pro, right? The 16-inch MacBook Pro.
Yeah. Actually, I should look up. I think maybe it's a 40 series. Now I forgot. And I have it on my couch. Let's see. Galaxy Book 3 Ultra. Sorry, I can't. It's hard to. Oh yeah, it's RTX 4050. Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, 4050, nice. And I think you can get up to a 4070 GPU. But yeah, this is what people wanted in terms of like if you edit video and photos, you're that kind of graphics professional, you're going to get everything in the 14-inch, way more powerful CPU, much more powerful GPU, and that beautiful 16-inch 3K display. So it's a fun laptop to use for certain. So I'll be hopefully getting that review up soon. But yeah, Samsung stuff, I think they're so kind of underappreciated in the laptop space. But they do some really cool things. So
Samsung, for the longest time, hung on to 16:9, and it was I disliked it for how long they hung on to it, because back in the day 16:9 was kind of normal. But Samsung for a brief period had really nice laptops with 16:9 displays, and if it's 16:9, I'm sorry, it's ruined. It doesn't matter how nice the rest of the laptop is. If it's a 16:9 display, leave me alone. These new ones are 16:10, right? So they've already fixed the biggest problem they had. And it's cool now because Samsung also sells their laptops in more markets. A few years ago, they were US only, or US and a few other sort of Asian markets. They weren't in the UK at all. I remember the first time we met at Build, you had a Samsung laptop. I don't remember what it was now. It was a silver laptop, and I loved it. I thought it looked great, but they didn't sell it in the UK.
It was super light.
Yeah, that was a lovely laptop.
It was silver, and the backlit keys were kind of greenish.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
It was so wild looking. Like no one's ever done that before. It was just, it got great battery life, I still have that around here somewhere.
That's a cool, nice looking laptop. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the other problem with them, that they kept shifting every generation to like a new design and a new name. Like they have the Flex, and I don't know what happened with that. They seem to be now coalescing around this Galaxy Book genre. So they have Book Pro, they have the regular Book, the Book Pro 14 and 16, the 360, and now the Ultra. So they seem to be getting into a consistent lineup, which is appreciated. And you're right, and I put this in the review, that there always seemed like to be a generation behind on certain aspects of where the industry was going. And now they're finally kind of catching up there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's good stuff. And I just dropped the link into the chat for those listening. But yeah, go check it out. Samsung, I think, is a really good. And the title of the thing was that this basically blows away the Surface Laptop 5, which is true.
Of course.
I mean, the Laptop 5, don't get me wrong, is still, the fundamentals, I keep saying, on the laptop are great. But if you had to choose, go get this thing, right? It's not even close. I think Microsoft whiffed, and Samsung just stepped in there and like, hey, check out this thing, and it's way better. So there you go. Google employees. Think. Maybe did I tweet that out? Think Bard is worse than useless. Did you follow this story?
I read a bit about it, yeah. It doesn't surprise me. I feel like everything around Bard and its announcement has been with this slight sort of haste from everybody involved. It's like, oh, we're just announcing Bard now because Google, Microsoft just did its thing, and then the event happened and Google stock plummeted by like $1 million, whatever it was, and ever since then it's sort of rolled out slowly but surely. And now there was a report that says that even internally, some Google employees think Bard is worse than useless. So it's great.
Yeah, this is coming from internally from employees saying that it's worse than useless, and it could result in serious injury or death. Right. I should be laughing, I guess, but I mean, it's still kind of funny because you think it's a chat thing. And you're right. This is Google is really far behind on this stuff.
Yeah, they're struggling. They were caught severely off guard by OpenAI and Microsoft, I think, and now they're sort of fumbling with what to do next.
And it's not that they haven't been investing in AI. They certainly have been. In fact, OpenAI was founded partially by Elon Musk as a response to Google's AI efforts, which they were keeping private, and you should believe it should be opened. So that's why they created OpenAI. Of course, now OpenAI is still open-ish, but Microsoft obviously gets priority on a lot of the technologies. And but as I explained last time, the only reason that happened is because they wouldn't let Elon Musk run the company. So he left. It took his money with him, even though he said he would continue to support it, and he didn't. And then they ran out of money, and then Microsoft's like, well, here's $1 billion. And then eventually here's $10 billion. And now Microsoft is there. So it is very circular. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Microsoft really pulled off a huge strategic move here with not only coming out with this, but like they're going nonstop. They're putting in all their products. It's like every week, oh, now it's in here. Now we did this. Like, and then people are complaining about the chat limits, and now that's gone, right? Like every week, this thing is just moving so fast. It's becoming more ingrained in all their products. And like Google's, it's like, I don't see anyone talking about Google Bard anymore. You know, it's just like, and I've never tried it actually. So I'm not gonna make a comment on it, but like, you know, the fact is like I got Bing built into Edge, which I use, and it's just right there. And then I have it on my phone. I use it in Edge all the time on my phone. Actually, I just want a Bing chat button as an icon that I can just launch and go into the chat directly. Hopefully they'll do something like that. But I don't know.
I assume we'll hear more about Bard at Google I/O, which is happening next
month.
I wouldn't be surprised if I/O is where they announce Google Assistant with Bard integration or something like that, because that's really where the sort of it starts getting useful on the go, right? It's when you can actually use your voice as a virtual assistant, which Bing you still can't do. I'm actually quite surprised Microsoft hasn't started doing that, because Google's going to do it. That's absolutely what they're going to do. And that will blow people out of the water, because Google demoed its AI phone call capabilities a few years ago, where they had an AI that could literally answer the phone for you, book your appointments and whatnot. And that, I imagine, was based on an earlier version of Bard. So when it's now like able to talk to you and like respond to queries and whatnot, and even complete commands like turn the flashlight on or IoT stuff, it's going to be a big deal, which Bing will then be behind in that aspect. But Bing currently, surprisingly, has the reputation that Google seemingly doesn't. Google has fumbled its launch of Bard, whereas Bing, the stars aligned, and all the press coverage was very positive, even though maybe it wasn't all as deserved. And Bing has just kept going with it. They kept running it every week. They update. They've got a blog where they add new features and give you. They're quite transparent regarding its development, what's changing, what's being improved, what's being taken away. And it's very unlike Microsoft to be this transparent about things, but they really are riding that high of the goodwill of the people. Like people are liking what we're doing here. Let's keep them updated. Let's keep them engaged. And so, for now, Bing has the reputation, has the positive press, and this, that, and the other. But I do think things will change once this stuff starts getting integrated in things like Google Assistant. And if Apple ever comes around to doing AI, then Siri and whatnot, because that's really the forefronts of virtual assistants, right?
Yeah, and there's nothing from Apple so far. We haven't heard a peep. And there's no evidence to suggest. Because they don't have search. And it reminds me, by the way, Elon Musk, I forgot to mention, starting again his own AI company.
Of course.
Which no one should be surprised about. But if you recall, just a couple of weeks ago, he signed and helped lead a petition saying that we should pause all AI development for 6 months. And I was calling nonsense on that. What a stupid idea was. The dude had already incorporated a company for AI at that point.
So he signed that letter because he wanted the competition to stop for 6 months so he could catch up. That's what it was. Yeah. Okay, get it. Yeah.
Because he had already started the paperwork to form his own AI company, which he's calling, what's it called? I forgot. It's like Freedom.
X. It's just called X, isn't it?
No. X is the parent company.
Oh,
but
sorry.
It's called Truth GPT. I think it's called Truth GPT.
That is not his real name. Are you serious?
Yeah. Because he doesn't want it to be quote unquote woke. The thing is here, I don't know how he's going to train his models, because the reason why Bing and Google are doing this is because they have search. Yeah. People use Bing for search, and every time you search, it helps train the model. And that's why I think Apple's kind of screwed here too, because that's the most obvious use case right now for this kind of AI stuff is knowledge and breaking it down and fetching data and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know how someone's closed chat model that doesn't have access to Bing's data or Google's data is going to necessarily index the web, like that's a hard thing to do. Well,
Yeah.
the beauty of, and that's why it separates Bing Chat from ChatGPT right now. ChatGPT, of course, is like locked to like around 2021. That was the last data set it got. But Bing is just up to date all the time. So you can ask Bing about something that literally happened like a couple of hours ago, and it's going to be able to give you that answer. I don't know how. And not to mention, I've been told by other people in this industry, which should be obvious, that it's very hard to find talent in AI right now. Because as you could imagine, it's a very hot industry, right? If you're going to school, you should probably go into AI. But all of the big people are being lured by all the big companies, Google, Microsoft, maybe Apple, Amazon, of course. So they're all getting drawn into this and fighting for salaries. Now, would you rather go work for, so you're a top AI researcher, you're in high demand. Would you rather go work for Microsoft, where they clearly have a leg up right now in products and getting it out there? Or do you want to start with a company that's just forming right now and they're just assembling a team in AI? Like, I don't know, maybe you see one as an opportunity to like start fresh and do your own thing, but that's also like the prospects of like his, catching up and becoming a major product. And again, the dude's already too spreadly thin, like over his other companies. Like now he's going to do AI as well. It's like, I don't know, man. I think he's just upset about OpenAI and shocked about how successful it became without him. So
Probably.
Anywho, that does it for this podcast. Do you have a thing of the week besides that medicine you're drinking?
No, I guess the Mandalorian season finale was actually pretty good.
Oh,
It was.
I heard that.
It got better towards the end. It started
Yep.
slow, but midway through, I think it started getting good, and the ending was very satisfying. So, recommended watch, I think, from me.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. I still got to finish Andor, so, but I'm going to eventually just power through it. I have been it's going through Succession finally. Now, I've caught up. I just meant the final fourth season. I'm starting to watch that, and it's. You've never watched Succession,
I've not
right?
seen Succession. I see people raving about it on Twitter.
Dude,
but
it's
yeah.
so good. It is just like, people don't believe it because you see the premise of the show, rich media family, and you're like, oh, it seems so boring. But I'm telling you, it's funny. First of all, it's a pretty hilarious show, but it's hilarious in unintended ways. That's what makes it great. But the script, the writing is just like, and the cinematography, everything about it is just brilliant. Like I'm telling you, watch it. A couple episodes in, you'll get it. If you start watching it now, you'll be able to just. And this is the final season, but yeah, you should definitely watch that. It's a really amazing show. It's also like kind of reflects real life right now, what's going on in media in a lot of ways, but it's kind of fun. So
Dan, did you hear they've announced a Harry Potter TV show?
Yes, I did. Yes. Oh, we forgot to talk about the. We forgot to talk about the Pixel Fold.
Oh yes, we did forget to do that. It looks awesome. I'm very excited about it. The whole thing is leaked. Literally, I think that John Prosser, which is like he's a wicked leaker. He does leaks in the funniest of ways. He leaked the whole thing, begin spec to spec. We know everything about it now. We know the deals they're going to be running, the price, when it goes on sale. So there's literally nothing to be left to the imagination. I won't mention all of it here because, frankly, I don't remember. But the
I got it here, so I will mention.
Got it? Okay, got him.
Yeah, the pricing starts at $17.99. So if you're hoping it would be cheaper and that Microsoft was crazy for offering it for $1,500, sorry, you're wrong. $17.99. That's for 512 gigs of storage. It'll be coming in white and black. There's also, that's 256 gigs. There's a 512 gig storage version. It only comes in black. That's $1,919. Ouch. You do get a free Pixel Watch, though. So you got that going for you.
Which
so
is not great. Nothing. That's a $300 watch, right? So
and it pairs well with that device.
Yeah.
Imagine. So it's kind of cool. I just wouldn't probably have. I'd use it, but obviously I'm into.
Yeah, right.
Watches, so. Yeah. But it has 12 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM, the Tensor G2 chip with the Titan M2 security processor. It basically has the same cameras as the Google Pixel 7 Pro, which is impressive.
Yeah.
So that's on the rear. And then it has an inside camera, which I believe is 8 megapixel, and then an outside selfie camera that's 9 megapixel. The display, the outer display is aspect ratio 17.4:9. Okay. It's 5.8 inches. That's actually a really nice size. So this won't be, what I like about this device is, unlike the Fold, this is not narrow. This is, but it's not as wide as the Duo.
It's getting close, though. It's a nice, happy sort of medium between them, I think.
Yeah, so you're gonna have it's gonna be wider for each display, going about the front and what's going if you split the single foldable one. The interior one is it's a 2208 by 1840 OLED panel at 300 ppi. They're all 120 hertz, including the external display, which is 5.8 inches, which is great. So these are really nice displays on them. They are plastic, glass, that kind of thing. So, at least the inside ones. But yeah, when's it go on sale? I think was it May 10th?
It's pre-order.
It's the pre-orders. And it'll ship on June 27th. May 30th, it'll go through carrier partners in Best Buy. So hopefully they'll do trade-ins.
This will probably be my next phone, I think.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It really does have kind of everything. And the battery life is supposed to be all day at 24 hours or 72 hours if you do the, shut everything down on it. Yeah. And people were making a big deal it's heavy. It's 283 grams, but that is, I believe, 1 gram heavier or lighter than Duo 2. So if you have a Duo 2, this thing's going to feel exactly the same in your pocket.
And to be fair,
so
I actually kind of like the hefty nature of the Duo.
I know.
I do prefer it.
I do too. Well, I've mentioned this before, too, that for some reason the Fold 4, its design made it feel heavier than a Duo 2 in your pocket.
Right. Yeah.
It felt like a brick, whereas a Duo 2, I don't know, just because it spread it out differently. So I think this will be somewhere in between. But yeah, it looks gorgeous. I mean, the edges on it looks more like the older iPhones, where it's metal and curved. It looks like a really nice design. So yeah, I think they're gonna have a hit on their hands. This will run pure Android. Well, not pure Android, but Google's version.
Yeah, it'll have day one Android updates for at least 3 years or 5 years, whatever they've promised. So that's cool as well. And also it'll be at the forefront of all those improvements for foldables, right? Because Google has its own Android-based program, and this device will most certainly be eligible for that. So yeah, this is going to be like the dream device if you're a fan of foldables. And if you're, I've been a Surface Duo 2 user now since it came out, whenever it did, 2021. I'm kind of ready to move on. If Microsoft had a Duo 3 at the end of the last year, that's exactly what I'd be using right now, and I would be not interested in the Pixel Fold. But since Microsoft decided to not give us a new phone, I'm phoneless right now. I need a new phone.
It's funny. I actually early this week switched back to the Duo 2 because I missed it so much, and I still really enjoy using it.
Yeah.
But the reason I popped out the SIM again is I'm totally spoiled by the S23 Ultra's cameras.
Oh, the cameras. Yeah, the Duo's cameras are not amazing. Yeah, that is.
They were fine at the time when I wasn't really using anything else. But now I'm using the S23 Ultra, and I also had the Pixel 7. It's just like, for instance, we finally built a fence in the backyard for the dog. $15,000 spent well.
What?
And so we let her out for the first time. Yeah, not cheap, right? So we let her out, and she started like tearing around the yard in circles and just running around free, And I caught it on the Duo 2.
Oh,
it was fine. I mean, it was fine. But I was just like, man, I wish I had my S23 Ultra because that video would have been way better because I'm going to preserve this moment,
Yeah.
So I get where, like, especially people with parents with kids or something like that, they want that moment preserved. So that's my only weakness. But I was still drawn to the Duo 2's like form factor. Like, I still do prefer it and enjoy propping it open. It's just the cameras for me are getting a little spoiled. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I think people are asking if we're going to get one. Yeah, I'll probably get the Pixel Fold. But my fingers crossed as they allow multiple trade-ins to bring that price down. Because if they're just like, we'll take one phone, it's like, okay, but I don't want to be spend that much money. But they could take
just sell the Pixel Watch.
Yeah, right. Like if they could just like take a couple of my phones and maybe a laptop, just take those and give me the discount, and I just spend maybe $500 on it. That'd be okay.
This isn't Samsung, Dan. Google needs the money.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. So, but that'll be we'll be talking more about it. But it's gonna be a cool device, that's for sure. Oh, Juan is here. Nice. Juan Bagnell. He's if you haven't watched his YouTube channel, he's been He's a big Surface Duo fan, actually, and into foldables. So I'm actually curious about his opinions on this device, too. I think it's going to be really interesting. But I think this is going to be the foldable that we've all been kind of waiting for.
Yeah, it is.
It's just
It
a
is the
shame it's not
closest.
for Microsoft.
Yeah, it is the closest to the Duo form factor in shape and size, not in screens. Obviously, it's still a
Yeah.
foldable on the inside, but because it is, I think it's still technically taller than it is wider, but it's not far off being wider than taller. Like the Duo, one of the nicest things about the Duo is that it is wider than it is tall,
Yeah.
and I really do like that because I do think it makes it for a nicer tablet experience. And so
Yeah.
that's the worst thing about the Galaxy. The Galaxy is like
It's so...
it's horrible.
Yeah, I mentioned how the Galaxy Fold 4 would be perfect if the hinge was in the opposite angle.
Yes, I fully agree. And apparently that is what the Pixel Fold is supposed to be, basically a Galaxy
Yeah.
Fold on its side, and that to me is perfect.
Because if you take the Fold 4 and just rotate it, it's like, that's an awesome device.
That's
You just wish
cool,
it could
yeah.
fold that way.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's like...
It's so
so
strange
bizarre.
how just doing that would make the Fold so much better. Why doesn't Samsung must know that? I don't understand why they haven't done it. It's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah, so all good stuff. Other than that, we'll wrap it up now. We'll do Q&A with the audience. So if you guys want to stick around, that's cool. Start asking us questions about things we did talk about or didn't talk about on the podcast. And if you're listening to this recorded, you get to listen. You can watch us every Friday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time on our YouTube channel. Otherwise, follow me on Twitter at Daniel_Rubino, Rubino, so long as I'm there. I no longer verified, so you may have to find the right Daniel Rubino. You don't know if it's actually me, but I'm also on Mastodon, so you can get the address in my profile there if you would like to use that. You can also follow Zach at ZACBOWDEN. Ask us questions there, give us tips, tell us what you think of the podcast and all that. As always, thanks to our sponsor, Magic Mind, and we'll talk to you next time. Take care, everyone.
Awesome. How do the Pixels compare with the Galaxy phones for those of us heavy into the Microsoft ecosystem? So it should more or less be identical. The only thing you'll miss out on is a couple of additional integrations through PhoneLink. For example, Samsung phones can jump straight to a tethered hotspot powered by the phone through the Windows 11 Wi-Fi menu, for example. Or you can see your most recently opened apps in the system tray through a Galaxy for some reason. But that's, to my knowledge, the only two additional features you get using a Galaxy versus non-Android phones.
Yeah, they have the frequently used apps that show up in the taskbar.
That's
which I
I
never
just
use.
mentioned that.
Yeah, like honestly, the tether thing is the most interesting.
Right.
That one I actually found pretty useful and cool. The rest, I don't stream apps. I don't do any of that
Right,
stuff.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's all been pretty useful and useless for me. And same thing with copying and sharing data. Sometimes that's a limit between them. But
Yeah.
again, with Edge Drop, I just use that everything for transferring stuff now.
Zach, do you think the Surface Go will finally have an 11-inch screen and keep the audio jack? I have no idea about the audio jack, and I frankly don't know about the screen either, but I do not think so. I think it will remain at 10.5 inches, only because I don't think they're going to decrease the size of the bezels, because that's just adding to the cost. That, they want to try and keep this relatively cheap. Do you also think they will ditch the proprietary charging port in favor of the more USB Type-C Thunderbolt? I don't know. Again, this is a great question. The latest Surface stock is USB only. But I still kind of really like Surface Connect, and I don't want them to get rid of it. So I'm hoping they don't, but I don't know is the answer to that question. Is it possible that they have improved the creaseless screen? They have an improved creaseless screen compared to Samsung. Other OEMs have sort of almost figured this out at this point. Huawei, not Huawei, or maybe Huawei, but Xiaomi, Oppo, who are shipping foldables, have screens where the crease is way less noticeable now. So I would be shocked if the Pixel Fold is any worse than the Galaxy Fold. I think it will be a bit better, yeah. I think it will. Zach, which do you prefer and why? Surface Pro 9 or Laptop Studio? Well, it depends on the workflow. If I'm just doing writing or just, casual sort of workflow in office, browsing the web, email, chat, meetings, the Pro 9. It's lighter, it's sexier in my opinion. It's just a nicer device in general. The Laptop Studio is a good workhorse if you're somebody who is editing video or crunching data or using multiple things at once. Like the Laptop Studio used to run this podcast. And it did that very well. That is the kind of thing that I would use the Laptop Studio for over the Surface Pro 9. But otherwise, the Pro 9, it's just lighter to carry around. It's just, I think it's a more fun device. Do you think that the rapid advancements and implementation of AI tools into Microsoft products will make companies, Microsoft 365 customers, start getting sick of them rather than integrating them? Well, I think it depends on how useful the AI is. If the AI is genuinely useful and is able to actually complete tasks correctly, then I don't see why people would get sick of it. Like, they'd probably want it in more places because it's so good. However, if it's not good, if it does mess up, and if it isn't as intuitive to use as people would hope it to be, then yeah, I can see people getting annoyed by it. The good news is, it's not being forced upon you. You don't have to use the AI stuff. So if it is not great for your workflow, which there will be workflows out there where the AI isn't very good, then you don't have to use it. You just use the program as you normally would, and you can do it yourself. But I think for a lot of people, especially people who don't frequent in Office, for example, even me, I don't know how to use all of Word. Being able to ask an AI to, how do I format this and indent this and make that thinner there, and it can do it for me. That's going to be amazing, especially for those who have to like edit PowerPoints and stuff, like presentations. Oh, the AI is going to be amazing. Hey, AI, just make this look nice for me. Done. Didn't even have to think about it.
Someone mentioned that it was where was it? Oh, not a question. Nation says, not a question, but after weeks and months of thinking, I've ordered a Surface Duo 1 for £300. Yeah, you can find a lot of them on eBay for about $300 still, which is it's a pretty cool investment. Our Richard Devine is using it as a secondary tablet device, and he likes it a lot for couch surfing, playing games, and all that kind of stuff. What's hard is, I was looking the other day, because when I was starting to get back into the Duo 2, I was like, I still really want the white one. And I just went on eBay. Dude, they're all like, you can get a new one in box. It's like $2,100. They're like, wow. They're super expensive. Some people are selling them for like $1,400, but it's all like kind of damaged and like got some chips in it, or maybe a scratch on the screen. It's just like, slim pickings for Duo 2 out there, which is a real shame, because I wouldn't mind picking one up for a discount, but they were just nowhere to be had. U2B Play asks a question out about the podcast, but Daniel, do you have a Longines watch, or do you plan to buy one? For example, Longines Hydro Conquest. I do not. I've looked a lot at the Longines. I think they're doing some incredible stuff, especially bringing out their a lot of their legacy watches back. The Hydro Conquest is pretty cool. They have some cool stuff. I probably will eventually get one, but I haven't so far. But yeah, they're a nice brand.
Do you think if gaming consoles had Thunderbolt, so that you could add eGPUs to it, would be good? The reason why that isn't a thing is because the whole point of a console is it's a consistent experience across the board. Developers target one SKU, one GPU, one CPU, and they can optimize a game fully with that workload. So that's the beauty of a console. So if you start adding additional GPUs to the mix, that starts to become less straightforward. And we're kind of already seeing that with the Series S and the Series X, right? The Series S is a Series X but with a lesser GPU, but again, it's still a controlled set. If we start adding eGPUs, so you can now plug an NVIDIA RTX of any kind into it, it's a whole new ball game, which is why PC games are less optimized. Sometimes an Xbox game will run great and the same game will run terribly on a PC with a certain graphics card, even though technically that graphic card is more powerful, because the optimization isn't there. So that's what's important for consoles.
Dan, do you personally use Bing rebates and other Microsoft Edge shopping tools? What do you think about these tools, as I hear a lot of people complain about Microsoft bloat in the browser? I don't understand the complaints. It's true, there are a lot of things in Edge, but you don't have to use them. You can hide them too. Like, you can turn them off, you cannot show them. So it doesn't slow down the performance of the browser as far as I can tell. The browser seems very zippy as ever. So I don't see any cost to this stuff. Do I personally use that? Yeah, actually I do. I get rebates every once in a while. I think last month I had like $7 in my account I need to transfer. I have a ton of Bing points that I've just never cashed in. I think I don't know, it's like 230,000 or something like that, points that eventually maybe I can put that to a Google product or get a gift card and put it towards the Pixel. But yeah, I think it's great. I use the shopping tools all the time. In fact, we use it on the site all the time. When we post deals and things we recommend you guys buy, that's one way I check the price, is you can use Edge and it gives you the price history, because sometimes you see a discount and a sale and you're like, all right, but is that like low, or is that just like, oh, it's low this week, but it was like that 2 weeks ago too, and this is just a frequent thing. And so it's great just to track pricing. It's also cool because if a product is out of stock, you can have Edge track it and it'll notify you when it's back in stock, or you can do pricing alerts and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I think the shopping stuff in Edge is awesome. I think people should be using it to make you a better shopper. It helps find you coupons, which I find very useful. You can go a lot of sites and all that coupon box, and you just be like, they're like, we have 16 coupons, and you're like, just try them all. You just sit there. It takes a couple of minutes, but it'll cycle through all the coupons, and it'll find the one with the best price, and it'll keep that coupon in for you. And I think that's awesome, because if you ever tried to look up a coupon for a website, that's a nightmare, because then you go down those websites that are super janky. So I think that's one of the best features. So yeah, I think Edge is awesome. I love all the new features. I'm a huge Edge fan. I think that team is doing some really great stuff. Yeah.
Who makes the Pixel Fold OEM wise? I think, doesn't Google make its phones properly now? Like, I know what you're referring to. Back in the day,
So.
the first few Pixels were like,
it'd be like
they were
HTC.
partners, yeah, with HTC and stuff.
And
But
then LG, I think.
Yeah, I think the most recent Pixels are all in-house by Google. I don't think they're partnered out.
I mean, they're sourcing the display probably from Samsung or LG.
Oh yeah, there's components who are all over the place. It's
Yeah.
not just, but regarding design and manufacturing, I think it's well, Foxconn will manufacture it, but I think Google is more or less they're not partnering with like another company to make the phone anymore.
A couple of questions regarding Go 4. One, do you think it'll come in the same colors as the current Surface Pros? I don't know. Maybe, possibly. I see. There's a good chance.
You're asking questions we possibly couldn't know the answer to this far out. We'll have to wait and see later this year. There's another question here, like would the Surface Pro 11 use the same chassis as the Go 4, and if so, maybe the Go 4 will go 11-inch. No, the chassis I believe will be slightly different. You got to remember, because a lot of people are asking, like, will it have an Ink & Co processor, the Go 4 and stuff? The Go is the budget Surface. It's supposed to be cheap, so all of the additions and the luxuries that you get on the Surface Pro, there's still gonna be a difference between them. That's what the 11-inch Surface Pro is for. It's supposed to be bringing those sort of flagship experiences to that smaller form factor. It wouldn't make sense to add all those flagship experiences to the Surface Go 4, because then that increases the price, and there's no point of an 11-inch Surface Pro. So the Surface Go 4 will still be the budget Surface. The design will be slightly updated, and the accessories will most likely be compatible across both the Surface Go 4 and the 11-inch Surface Pro, but that doesn't mean they will be identical. I believe the displays, the Pro 11 will have thinner bezels than the Go 4. So just keep that in mind, because I think a lot of people are getting ahead of themselves in regards to the Surface Go being this, be-all, end-all device. No, it's still a budget Surface. It's supposed to be it's basically like the iPad Air, or not the iPad Air, the new basic iPad. When can we expect the new touch-friendly File Explorer? Is Windows 12 exclusive? And when do you plan to reveal more about the Windows 12 UI goodies? To be fair, we've seen a lot of the Windows 12 UI already, thanks to Microsoft. But the touch-friendly File Explorer is arriving in waves, to my knowledge. The new gallery stuff you're seeing in the Insider Preview builds now, that's all part of it. That sort of rewrites of the File Explorer will extend to other parts of the File Explorer over time, and all of that will be more touch-friendly. So whether it's ready in time for Windows 12, I don't know. Could be ready in time for later this year for Windows 11 23H2, but that's outside of my knowledge. I don't know when it's supposed to be delivered in its entirety. Have you heard about if Windows 11 23H2 will be an OS swap or enablement package servicing style? I don't know. I still don't know. I still think it will be a servicing style release, because I just don't see the point in it not being one. If they are able to backport all of these features via servicing, just keep doing that for another year until Windows 12. I don't see why we need another platform release. Not platform release. OS release, I guess, is the best way to describe it. Your guess on how likely the 11-inch Surface Pro will be shelved? I don't know. I can't look into the future and tell you what will and won't be shelved. I'll say everything could be shelved, and also nothing could be shelved. We really don't know. We're so far out from that being ready, so I don't know. Do Surface Go devices have a limited amount of support? Would I upgrade my Android tablet? A tablet PC sounds good. I'm not sure what you mean by limited amount of support. It's fully supported by Microsoft, and you get a year's warranty with Microsoft at least. At least you do here in the UK. Not sure about elsewhere. Zach, when do you think Microsoft plans to get rid of the old control panel? They're already doing it. It's just taking time. When it will be complete, I don't know. Maybe Windows 12. Who knows? Hey guys, do you know if Google makes it a requirement for third-party keyboards on Android to use the Google Voice service? Example, SwiftKey doesn't use Microsoft's voice services. I don't know if Microsoft has voice services. Unless you're talking about the Windows one, in which case I still think that's, it's a Windows thing, not Android. I don't know. What does Samsung use? Does Samsung use Google Voice, or does it use Bixby?
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that with Samsung possibly switching to Microsoft.
Oh yeah. Oh, we'll talk about that next week. Oh, the week after. Oh, I forgot we didn't mention that we're not doing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oops, we're not doing a podcast next week. We'll be back the week after next. What is your favorite Microsoft hardware of all time? This includes cancelled hardware too. It depends. I've got a favorite from like the different kinds of lines. Like the Lumia 925 is my all-time favorite Lumia. The Surface Laptop 1 was like, I was smitten over that laptop for a long time. And the Surface Book as well, for that matter. I really liked the Surface Book. I don't know. The Surface Studio I was in love with as well, but that's such a not great device if you look at it on paper. I don't know, Dan, what is your favorite all-time Microsoft product? 1520 is a go-to answer for a lot of people, I think. Well, I guess that's technically Nokia, right? Yeah, I forgot that was all Nokia back then. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that doesn't count.
No, it doesn't.
Favorite product? I don't know. I mean, I really like Surface Laptop Studio. I've said that numerous times.
I'll say that the original Surface Duo is incredible from a design perspective, from hardware.
Yeah.
That thing is still so futuristic.
Yep. I mean, I like those devices, so the Duos. So it's kind of those. But I like the Pro. I think the Pro's always been kind of just a very unique device that's out there. Go, I've always been mixed on. Surface Laptop, when it was all in on Alcantara, was great, and it was kind of new. Now, I don't like the non-Alcantara version. It's just like meh to me. But I get it. I'm in the minority on that, so it's fine.
LTT did a video about why the old control panel probably won't die anytime soon. Short version, specialized niche software with big companies that depend on macros that do stuff in the control panel. That is correct. But what a lot of people refer to when they say, when is the control panel going away, is the literal link to the control panel. When you search for control panel in Windows Search, you see a little icon with the classic control panel logo and then an app that says control panel. That is more or less just linking you to a folder with shortcuts to control panel applets. Now, I do not think all of the control panel applets will be gone anytime soon. That will likely remain a thing forever. However, the control panel listing, when you search for control panel, I do think is on its way to being removed. I've seen builds internally where that listing is still there, but when you click in there, there's nothing in there anymore. It says there's no items here. So clearly some movement is happening there in regards to moving all that stuff out of there and getting rid of the control panel link, I guess you could call it. But yeah, if you're digging around in the modern settings app and you click on something, I'm almost certain you'll still find a pop-up for a legacy dialog. You can do it right now in Windows 11 with additional mouse controls. If you go into the cursor settings and whatnot, if you want to add a pointer shadow, for example, there's a button in modern settings to go to additional cursor options, and that pops up a legacy control panel applet. Doesn't take you to the control panel homepage. It just pops up that little tiny window where you can configure those legacy settings, and stuff like that will remain. But the control panel itself will eventually be gone. Any news for Surface event prior to build? No, there are no plans to launch any new Surface PCs this half of the year. The next time we'll see a new Surface will likely be in the September-October timeframe. Do you have a beer group in London discussing Microsoft topics casually on a pint sometimes? Well, there used to be. I have a friend called Michael Gillett who used to do these Windows Insider meetups, and we'd do them every couple of months. And yeah, it would basically just be we go to a pub and have a drink, and a few of us would get together, and we would it would start on Microsoft topics, but because it's an evening out, it would be other things as well. But we don't do them anymore because a lot less and less people started showing up to them, and now we just hang out as as friends more than as people talking about Microsoft. So yeah. All right, final call for questions, then it's time to head off. It is getting late and I am feeling very poorly. I need to go and lay down. Oh, dear. Right, doesn't look like there's any more questions. So in that case, we are going to say goodbye, and we will be back in 2 weeks because we're not doing a podcast next week because I am not around. So follow us on Twitter. We'll keep you updated when we go live. But until then, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.